Introduction. What would your life look like if fear no longer dictated your decisions? Not the kind of fear that keeps you from touching a hot stove, but the subtle, quiet kind. The fear that holds you back from speaking your mind. The fear that stops you from chasing your dream. The fear that makes you settle for less than you deserve because it's safer that way. We all carry it. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Fear of uncertainty. But here's the truth. Fear isn't something outside of us. It's not the job interview, the first date, the risk of starting something new. Fear lives in how we think about those things. It's a story we tell ourselves, and like any story, it can be rewritten. This isn't about becoming fearless, it's about learning to live in spite of fear. And for that, we're turning to some of the most battle-tested minds in human history, the Stoics. These weren't just philosophers sitting in silence on mountain tops. They were emperors, slaves, soldiers, people who lived in chaos, faced death, betrayal, war, and exile, and yet found a way to move through it with strength and clarity. They didn't eliminate fear, they mastered it. In this video, we'll explore 7 Stoic lessons that will change the way you think about fear forever. Lessons that go beyond motivational fluff and into timeless, practical tools you can start using today. Whether you're dealing with anxiety, uncertainty, or the overwhelming weight of what-ifs, these teachings will help you take control, not by pretending fear isn't there, but by confronting it head-on. These aren't just philosophical ideas, they're a blueprint for a braver life. So if you've ever felt paralyzed by fear or held back by doubt, you're in the right place. Let's dive into the ancient wisdom that has helped warriors, leaders, and thinkers conquer their inner chaos and can help you do the same. 1. Fear is opinion, not fact. Imagine you're walking into a room full of strangers. Your palms are sweaty, your heart's racing, your mind is screaming. They're judging you, you're going to say something stupid. That tight feeling in your chest, that's fear taking over. But here's what Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, would say: it's not things that upset us, but our judgments about them. In other words, it's not the room full of people that's scary, it's what you think might happen that makes it feel terrifying. Fear is rarely about what's real, it's about perception, our interpretation of events, our assumptions about outcomes, our habit of imagining the worst. It feels like truth, but more often than not, it's just a guess, a story your mind is telling you, and not always a helpful one. The Stoics believed that if we can change our judgments, we can change how we feel. They practiced separating facts from interpretations. The fact is, you're walking into a room. The interpretation is, they won't like me. One is neutral, the other is fear in disguise. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." What he meant was, your reaction is your choice. Fear doesn't force itself on you, you allow it to grow by believing it without questioning it. Think about how many fears you've had in your life that never came true. The awkward conversation you dreaded that turned out fine. The opportunity you nearly turned down because you weren't ready, but you crushed it. That's proof. Fear isn't fact, it's opinion. Once you start viewing fear as an opinion, it becomes manageable. Opinions can be challenged, rewritten, let go. So the next time fear creeps in, ask yourself, what am I assuming here? What story am I telling myself? Is it the truth or just a thought I've never questioned? Because fear wants you to react. Stoicism teaches you to reflect. And in that space between reaction and reflection, you find your power. Understanding this is the first step. When you stop treating fear like truth, you stop letting it control you. And that's how the shift begins. 2. You've survived 100% of your worst days. Think back to a moment in your life when everything felt like it was falling apart. Maybe it was a breakup that shattered your heart, a job you didn't get, a mistake you thought you'd never recover from. At the time, it felt impossible. You were sure that was it, that you couldn't handle anymore. But here you are. The Stoics had a powerful way of dealing with adversity. They didn't avoid pain, nor did they pretend it didn't hurt. What they practiced instead was resilience, a deep-rooted belief in their own ability to endure. Marcus Aurelius, who led Rome during plagues, wars, and political betrayal, wrote to himself in his Meditations, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it, and it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now." What does this mean in the context of fear? It means that fear often comes from a lack of confidence in our ability to survive discomfort. We think, if I fail, I won't recover. If I'm rejected, it will break me. But the truth is, you already have recovered, again and again. You've endured more than you give yourself credit for. Every time fear tells you you can't handle this, you can answer back with evidence. Because your track record? It's flawless. You've survived 100% of your hardest days. And you didn't just survive, you learned, adapted, and in many cases grew stronger. The Stoics didn't aim for a life without challenges. They expected hardship. What they trained their minds for was to become bigger than those hardships. They practiced reminding themselves, "I've faced worse, and I'm still standing." Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." So if fear shows up, let that be your cue. Not to run, but to remember, you've been here before, you've felt fear before, and you've come out the other side every time. Let that be your strength, let that be your proof. Because when you know you can survive the storm, fear of the weather loses all power. 3. Practice voluntary discomfort. We spend most of our lives avoiding discomfort, physically, emotionally, and mentally. But what if the key to conquering fear is to invite discomfort in? That's exactly what the Stoics believed. In fact, they practiced it intentionally. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome and a powerful Stoic philosopher, often slept on the floor, wore rough clothing, and fasted for days. Not because he had to, but because he chose to. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" Why would someone with so much deliberately live like he had nothing? Because when you face discomfort on your terms, you remove its power to frighten you. Fear feeds off the unknown, off the what-ifs. What if I lose everything? What if it all goes wrong? What if I can't handle it? But once you've experienced even a taste of those scenarios by choice, sleeping in an uncomfortable place, living simply for a few days, embracing hunger or cold, you realize something powerful. You can handle more than you think. Voluntary discomfort isn't about suffering for the sake of it. It's about training your mind. It's about reminding yourself that you are resilient, that comfort isn't a necessity, and that fear of losing it shouldn't paralyze you. It builds grit. It builds self-trust. It sends a message to your fear. I've been through worse. You don't scare me anymore. Even in modern life, you can apply this. Take cold showers, turn off your phone for a day, sleep without a pillow, skip a meal, speak up in a meeting even if it makes you anxious. These little acts train you to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that is the space where courage is born. When you stop avoiding discomfort, you stop fearing it. And when fear of discomfort fades, what's left to hold you back? The Stoics knew that to master fear, you must first master your response to discomfort. And the best way to do that is to face it before it ever arrives. 4. Focus only on what you can control. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. The wind is howling, rain's pouring down, and everything feels chaotic. You can't stop the storm, but you can control how you stand in it. That's the heart of this Stoic principle. Focus only on what you can control. Let go of everything else. Epictetus put it simply. Some things are up to us and some things are not. This might sound obvious, but most of our fear comes from trying to control what isn't ours to control. Other people's opinions, the outcome of our efforts, the future, the past, all of it, completely outside our hands. We obsess, we worry, we hesitate. Not because we're lazy or weak, but because we're mentally pouring energy into things that are ungovernable. The Stoics believed that peace and courage come from drawing a clear line. What can I control right now? My thoughts, my actions, my effort, my choices. That's it, and that's enough. Think about how fear shrinks when you make that shift. Instead of fearing a job interview's outcome, you focus on preparing as best you can. Instead of fearing a conversation's reaction, you focus on speaking with clarity and honesty. Instead of fearing failure, you commit to learning and showing up fully. When you root yourself in what you can control, you take your power back. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire in turmoil. He couldn't stop war or plague or betrayal, but he wrote daily to remind himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This isn't about giving up. It's about letting go of illusion, the illusion that you can force outcomes, fix people, or predict life. By focusing only on what's yours, your effort, your mindset, you become more effective, less anxious, and way more fearless. So the next time fear creeps in, pause and ask, is this within my control? If yes, act. If no, release it. It's simple. Not always easy, but life-changing when practiced, because the more you shrink your circle of concern to match your circle of control, the lighter and freer you become. And fear? It doesn't stand a chance in that space. 5. Memento mori, remember you'll die. It sounds morbid at first. Remember you will die. Why would anyone want to think about death? But to the Stoics, memento mori wasn't about fear. It was about clarity, focus, urgency. Seneca wrote, "Let us prepare our minds as if we had come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing." The point isn't to dwell on death, it's to stop postponing life. Think about how many times fear has stopped you from doing something meaningful. Speaking your truth, taking a leap, loving deeply, starting over. We hesitate, delay, overthink, because we act as if we have all the time in the world, but we don't. And that's not depressing, it's freeing. When you realize your time is limited, fear starts to lose its grip. Suddenly the fear of being embarrassed in front of strangers seems ridiculous compared to the regret of never trying. The fear of failure shrinks next to the idea of never pursuing what matters to you. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This wasn't negativity. This was a compass, a daily reminder to focus on what's real, what's meaningful, what's worth your time. Memento mori is the ultimate fear killer because it reveals a deeper fear behind all our hesitation, the fear of wasting our life. And once you face that truth, the smaller fears of judgment, risk, imperfection begin to fade. So how do you live with this mindset? It doesn't mean living recklessly. It means living intentionally, saying what you mean, doing what you love, leaving nothing important unsaid, taking action not someday but now. You remember that the clock is ticking, not to scare you but to inspire you. When you live as though your time is precious, you stop trying to control everything. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop letting fear keep you on the sidelines. You step into your life fully and bravely, because one day your story will end. The Stoics simply ask, what kind of story will it be? Remember, you will die, not to be afraid, but to finally start living. 6. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom. Have you ever talked yourself out of something you really wanted, then called it being realistic? Maybe it was a dream job, a relationship, a creative project. You told yourself, it's not practical. It's not the right time. I need more experience. And sure, it sounded like logic. It sounded wise. But deep down, you knew what it really was, fear, wearing a clever disguise. The Stoics knew this trick well. They understood that fear rarely introduces itself as fear. It comes dressed up in rationality. It convinces you it's protecting you, when really, it's holding you back. Seneca warned us, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. What we call caution is often just anxiety in a fancier outfit. We wait for certainty, We tell ourselves, when I'm more confident, more skilled, more stable, then I'll go for it. But that moment rarely comes because fear keeps moving the finish line. What if, instead of waiting for the fear to go away, you acted anyway? What if you recognized that fear often shows you what matters most? The Stoics taught that reason and virtue should guide our decisions, not comfort. That the right path is often the harder one, not because hard equals good, but because growth requires effort, and effort always comes with resistance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Simple. Clear. No room for fear's clever disguises. Next time you're hesitating, ask yourself, am I being wise or am I just afraid? Is this truly not the right move or am I avoiding discomfort? If it's not fear, it'll hold up under that question, but if it is, call it out. Don't let fear hide behind logic. Don't let it pretend to be your ally when it's just your anxiety dressed as advice. Courage, as the Stoics saw it, isn't loud, it's quiet, calm, rational. It doesn't scream YOLO. It simply says, I know this might not be easy, but it's right. And once you see through fear's disguise, you'll be able to step forward, not recklessly, but bravely. Because wisdom isn't about staying safe, it's about staying true. 7. Action cures fear. Fear loves inertia. It thrives in stillness. The longer you sit with it, the louder it gets. You've probably felt it before, lying in bed, wide awake, running through all the worst-case scenarios, or standing still, staring at an opportunity while your mind whispers, what if you're not good enough? Fear grows in the pause between intention and movement. The Stoics had no patience for that pause. They believed in the power of immediate, deliberate action because fear loses its grip the moment you do something. Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. In other words, stop talking, start doing. Action grounds you in reality. It breaks the loop of anxious overthinking and forces your brain to deal with what is, not what might be. That scary conversation, it's never as bad as the 1,000 imaginary versions you played in your head. That leap you've been avoiding, once you jump, it's already halfway done. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, constantly reminded himself, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. That's the Stoic response to fear. Do the thing, take the step, make the call, start the project, speak the truth, not recklessly, not carelessly, but with the understanding that fear doesn't go away before action. It goes away because of action. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need confidence. You just need momentum. And that starts with one small, intentional move forward. Seneca wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." Let that sink in. Fear isn't a wall, it's fog. Thick, intimidating, disorienting. But when you walk into it step by step, it starts to clear. Every courageous person you admire, they didn't wait to feel ready. They acted despite the fear. And that's what made them fearless, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to keep going with it in the passenger seat. So if you're afraid right now, good. That means you're close to something that matters. But don't sit with it too long. Stand up, breathe deep, and move, because the fastest way to beat fear is to do the thing fear tells you not to. Conclusion. In a world where fear often feels like a constant companion, the Stoic wisdom we've explored today offers a transformative path forward. Fear doesn't have to control your life. By applying these 7 Stoic lessons, seeing fear as an opinion, remembering your strength, embracing discomfort, focusing only on what you can control, reflecting on your mortality, recognizing fear's disguise as wisdom, and taking action, you can break free from its grip. Fear, at its core, is an illusion. It's a projection of what might happen, not what will. But when you challenge that projection, when you stop letting it dictate your choices, you reclaim your power. The Stoics didn't aim to eliminate fear. They aimed to live in spite of it, to grow stronger through it, and to find peace in their ability to act regardless of it. So the next time fear knocks at your door, remember you've already survived your worst days. You've faced challenges before and come out stronger. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment or the ideal conditions. You just need to start, because action, no matter how small, disarms fear. The Stoics taught us that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward regardless of it. When you begin to live by these principles, you'll find that fear becomes less of a barrier and more of a guide, a signal that you're moving towards something that matters. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.